He's charging down the runway. Look at that speed for a man that size. Plants it up. Oh, my goodness, he's still rising.
Charging hard down the runway. Plants in. Massive bend here. He's up. Over. Oh, the pole snap.
Powering down the runway. Pole set. Eyes locked on the bar. Let's go. Plants it. Huge bend. He's up. Inverted. Clearing. Over the top. He got it. He got it.
Here he goes, driving down the runway. Pole steady in his hands. Come on. Massive bend. And he's up. Over the bar.
Comes Jensen barreling down the runway. Look at the speed for a man his size.
Pole goes in. Huge plan. Oh, my. He's still rising. That's
Coming down the runway now. Look at the speed he's carrying for a man of his size.
It's now time for The Sit Down with Don Tony.
The Sit Down, where Don Tony talks one-on-one with his followers.
What are you looking at?
About the world of pro wrestling, pop culture, and so much more.
The Sit Down with Don Tony.
And now, your host, Don Tony.
Yeah, that video never gets old. The Sick Olympics, the AEW Sick Olympics. Let me make this clear. That's not directed towards regular AEW fans. I support AEW. Those are for the weird whack jobs on both sides. You got the WWE wackos, you got the AEW sickos. That's the Sick Olympics. What's up, everyone? It's Sunday night. What's today? The 7th of December. 18 days until Christmas. 25 days until the end of the year. Unbelievable. This year flew by. And just think, a week from today, we will be talking about John Cena's final match. Saturday night's main event. Now, again, you know, he will be on WWE television next year. Netflix is already teasing him for the Raw after WrestleMania, but as far as matches go, he will not have another one. And let me tell you something. Even if Cena still sticks around, even if he makes occasional appearances, believe me when I tell you, whether you like Cena or not, well, if you really don't like Cena, I guess this doesn't apply to you, but if you do like Cena, you could tolerate him, you know, you enjoy what he does, you're going to miss him having a match. I'm telling you, you're going to miss it. Because I'm old enough to remember when Ric Flair retired, when Shawn Michaels retired. Yes, Ric Flair, Hulkamania tour in Australia, rest is history. But Shawn Michaels, you know, for many years, one more match. And then Saudi Arabia, you know, they whipped out the cash. And listen, Shawn Michaels denies it to this day. But the fact of the matter is, you know, that money sets his family more for life. You know, the money he made from that, it's for his family. Should not be embarrassed of that. Yeah, the match ended up being what it was. But, you know, up until that point, you know, people do miss. I mean, you got the footage of Cena's entire career. You could rewatch stuff. But, you know, watching something live and not knowing what you're about to see, good or bad, is something that will not be anymore with John Cena. I will tell you this much. I only put 3 in the computer. And I hope everyone tuning in is at least 18 years old or over, because I went through my old hard drive, and, you know, one thing, the Don Tony and Kevin Castle show, we covered John Cena's entire career. Obviously, Kev passed away earlier this year, so he did not cover the final 7+ months, but, you know, for his entire career, we covered it. And, you know, the early days of Cena, there was a lot of rabid posts. Tomorrow for the show, I'm going to put an intro up of a mix that I have that's got to be almost 15+ years old. and it's a mashup of Cena's song and, Your Time Is Up, Bitch. And it's kind of comical to hear it now because his time is truly up. But I was going through like old photos and I found this one in my computer. How did Cena handle the hostile crowds back in the day? Number one, you laugh it off nervously. Number two, you insult yourself. And number three, you start sucking up to the crowd or the local fan favorites. That was the formula that John Cena used to use a long time ago. Then we had this infamous one, that infamous meme of Batman and Robin. Robin is saying, let's go Cena, and Batman slapping him across the face. Cena sucks. But hopefully everybody's 18 or over. But the one that I found in my computer that was a gem, and this one you won't find on the net. Trust me, people will be screenshotting this one. Back in the day, we did a spoof commercial of those who were just really over the top with John Cena. And we did a little spoof commercial, myself and Kev, we were hyping up the John Cena collection. You got, I don't even want to say, but anybody that watches this video, just look at around, I don't know, the 8-minute mark. You had a whole bunch of Cena sex toys. And that was, that's wild. The Flesh Jack. Oh, man, for men and for women, by the way. So, we got so many more. I might have to put make a whole video montage of what we got. So many things in a hard drive. But listen, before I get into the show, and for those that are new, what we do on Sunday night for the majority of the show, we call it the Lazy Show. I sit here and I answer your questions. I give my opinions. I share your comments. That's what we do on a sit down. We sit down and we talk about whatever. I do open up with a couple of quick topics. What's on a lot of people's minds. We're going to mention briefly about this Warner Brothers Discovery Netflix deal. We're going to discuss Freddie Prinze Jr. You'll understand why I did that. And his claim with ESPN and WWE. David Otunga turning into the ultimate grifter. He's turned into a fucking grifter, man. Got to address David Otunga. Even Dave Meltzer and Eric Bischoff had a kind of funny last 7 days. Eric Bischoff don't like it. He don't like to take his medicine. This time around, I got to defend Dave Meltzer, although I have to criticize him about one numerical comment that he made earlier this week that I need to remind everyone out there, some factoids. Dave gave us a great example this week that if you say something enough times, people believe it to be true. I'll explain. What else did I want to mention? Oh, I wrote in the title, John Cena's final entrance. What I'm hearing that WWE is thinking about doing, and I hope they do it. We'll talk about that. Very quickly about Deadline yesterday as well, but I have to open up with this. Last week, we announced that we were giving away a pair of John Cena Survivor Series hats. Everything is stitched really, really beautiful. Got two. I didn't wear them. They're brand new. I only took them out of the package so you could see them. One is being given away on Patreon. One was being given away here. So last week, everybody who was live, we did a contest where you chose a 3-digit lucky number. And then to always keep the contest fair, we don't finagle it. You have no idea how many websites and wrestling shows over the years, how they finagle their contests. It's unbelievable. You think they really give away PS5s and all that stuff? But we keep it real. Everybody chose a 3-digit lucky number. And then I said on Monday night's New York lottery drawing, because I can't fix that. I can't stage it. Whatever that number is, whoever comes closest wins the hat. Obviously, you need to claim it within a couple of days. Otherwise, we're going to give it to somebody else. But just so everybody knows, that is straight from New York Lottery's website. You could go see for yourself. Last Monday night, the evening drawing was 602. So whoever came the closest to 602 won the hat. And here is the screenshot from last week's show. And although the numbers look a little bit small, so you might not be able to figure out who won. Don't worry, I enlarged it. Congratulations to Springwood 73. Springwood came closest with his or her lucky number 612. So Springwood 73, you are the winner. So reach out and I'll hook you up. So Patreon, we will put up the contest tomorrow. And then we'll do the drawing probably Wednesday or maybe Thursday. Give everybody a chance to participate. So, congrats. So, what do you guys want me to open up with? Deadline, Bischoff, Freddie Prinze Jr., David Otunga, Warner Brothers Discovery, AEW's future, John Cena's final match, his entrance. All right, we got to vote for NXT. We got to vote for Freddie Prinze. Let's keep it going. Netflix, Warner Brothers Discovery, Netflix. Okay, so let's get into the Netflix first. Okay. Now, I say this with the utmost sincerity. You know, guys, I don't fuck with you. I don't clickbait you. I don't take advantage of you. Do you want the information straight up? Do you want me to tease it like a lot of other people out there, a lot of grifters? I might start using that word a lot more often. Kind of like it. Or do we, just give you straight up? By the way, if the video, John Reynolds, welcome to the family. Welcome to the family, John Reynolds. If the video looks a little bit different today, I actually changed my tripod. And I actually changed a couple of settings. Believe it or not, my fucking cam link wire broke and there was no video on my screen. So I had to actually call Instacart and they delivered me a brand new one today. So we got that squared away. But there's a little issue with my modem. And for some reason, my video connection is only 100 megabytes per second. It should be a gigabyte. But apparently the connection's stable, so 100 megabytes is enough, so we should be safe for today. All right, listen, very quickly. I will be the first to admit it. For the last 4 to 6 weeks, I stuck with my gut, and it's a big gut, by the way. I know you're giving me agita. Can't really see it because I have to adjust the camera still. Don't worry, we will. I thought Paramount was going to get the deal simply because of the Ellison family. And, they got crazy, crazy bucks. They want CNN, as part of the deal, but they don't want just CNN, because once the Netflix deal was announced, I had a few people say to me, well, DT, maybe the Ellisons could still get the CNN part of the deal. I don't know if they really want that. You kind of want the whole package or you don't want it at all. But Netflix, I've heard 72 billion. I've heard 81 billion. All I know is that Netflix won the chase, the negotiations with Warner Brothers Discovery. And it's going to take about a year for this to be done. This has to go through a lot of steps. It's got to be signed off by Congress, and there's going to be, and trust me, Paramount is not going to just walk away, put their tail between their legs and figure out, okay, what do we do next? All right, they're going to challenge this a little bit. I don't know what grounds they would have to have a good case, but this is going to take about a year, maybe a little bit more to get done. So, I want to warn you all, and I'm not saying this to start fucking with other fellow shows in the wrestling world. In 2026, you're going to see my face across YouTube a shitload more. And a lot of times, I'm not going to call out individual people who are just taking advantage of you and putting this dramatic shit in there. I'm going to just try to give you facts. And then when the facts prove to be right, then you could put 2 and 2 together and see who's actually, trying to give you honest information and who's out there just kind of what's next? What's next? What's going to be the future of AEW? Oh my God, AEW, Tony Khan must be shitting bricks. I purposely printed this because I wanted to make sure I did not make a mistake. Okay? And you know what? I'm going to hit two birds with one stone because I saw this come in before we started tonight. This is from Chainsaw Charlie. If Netflix drops AEW, do you think Paramount would pick them up? And P.S., your Heyman Rollins pick is hilarious. Since when did Seth wear a belly ring? I did I put the thumbnail in this tonight? No, I didn't. You're going to just have to go check out the replay or just look at the thumbnail later on. I put Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman in there, and I photoshopped a funny ring to Seth Rollins' midsection. Just figured to see if anybody would notice, but I'm mentioning his super chat for a reason. Paramount is not going to pick up AEW. Amazon is not going to pick up AEW. Disney, Fox, whoever you want to bring up is not going to pick up AEW. And the reason why that is because I did a whole bunch of research about what Netflix is actually buying. Okay? Warner Brothers Discovery is not just one, company and everything goes with it. Oh, they're buying Warner Brothers, everything goes with it. Okay? You might remember last year that there was rumors, might have even been earlier this year, there were rumors that David Zaslav was going to separate and take Warner Brothers Discovery and put it into two different companies. One primarily on the streaming platform side of things and the other one in the cable TV side of things. So I know we're oversimplifying it, but that's pretty much what that is. So Chainsaw Charlie, thank you for that. I'll explain a little bit more. One of the companies that's being set up is called Discovery Global. Remember those two words, Discovery Global. Because if anyone out there, especially in the wrestling world, is going to discuss the future of AEW and try to make it seem that once this Netflix deal is finalized, that AEW might be in trouble. Tony Khan issued a press release, okay? Or made a statement, I should say. And I definitely recommend you go check out the statement. But what was interesting that people picked up on is he doesn't mention AEW. He mentions football. And that was for good reason. And you know me. I will be the first to crack jokes at Tony Khan all night long. I will criticize him all night long. I will also defend him all night long if warranted. And the reason why Tony Khan never mentioned AEW is because of Discovery Global. Discovery Global, that is going to be a separate entity. And I'm going to read it straight from a bunch of news outlets. And by the way, if you want straight up honest information about this, go check out non-wrestling websites. Check out non-wrestling websites. That's where you'll get this information. Discovery Global will include HGTV, CNN, TLC, TBS, TNT, all of those networks. Netflix is not buying Discovery Global. Netflix is not buying the cable aspect of it. Netflix is going to get HBO, HBO Max, Warner Brothers, the film, the studios. They're getting all of that. All the old cartoons, all the movies, all the TV shows, Friends, Big Bang Theory, all of that is going to Netflix. The reason why people out there are very concerned about this deal is because it is going to hurt significantly movie theaters. Movie theaters. Because in Netflix's, remember when Nick Khan, and I think this is a good comparison. Nick Khan in an interview a while back said that AEW is not competition to them. Anybody who watches news, sports, AEW, Ultimate Fighting, a movie, whether anybody watching that instead of WWE is competition. That's Nick Khan's standpoint of it. Every minute you're watching something else instead of WWE, that's competition. For Netflix, every time somebody goes to the movie theater, that is one less eye on Netflix. Netflix will produce boatloads of movies in the future direct to Netflix release. Even though they can still, they expect, they use the word expect to have Warner Brothers continue as it was before. When they realize that movie theaters are not as profitable, then having someone buy a Netflix subscription, you're going to see a lot of movies that are going to be direct to Netflix releases. And not only that, expect the price to increase. The more Netflix offers you, the higher the price will be. You don't spend $70, $80 billion and keep your price the same. So, with that said, okay, Netflix is getting everything that I just mentioned. More, but that's the summary of it. What they are not getting is Discovery Global, CNN, TNT, TBS, HGTV, Food Network, Discovery Channel. They don't get those. So to summarize it, I know this is boring, but to summarize it, as long as AEW remains on TNT and TBS, they're safe. They're safe. The reason why Tony Khan talked about more of the football side of things is because that could be more in jeopardy, because Netflix pursuing the sports and football, and obviously they're the owners of the Jacksonville Jaguars. But AEW, yeah, they may lose HBO Max as a result. Yeah, and they go back to the pay-per-view platform they had before. They go back to those other formats. They have Amazon still. They have, the streaming. So, and listen, you don't know what HBO Max's numbers are. Nobody knows. Nobody knows. When you see, you ever ask yourself a question? You ever ask yourself, how is it that nobody could find out Raw's streaming numbers for the November 24th Raw because it went out of the top 10 globally? No one could get an idea. No one can get an idea as far as how many views were watched on Netflix for Survivor Series, unless it's in the top 10, obviously. No one could get any of that information. But for some reason, pay-per-view numbers for AEW always seem to be available. And it's only available to the people out there that give you certain numbers. This week, I laughed and I took two screenshots. I laughed because Dave Meltzer called Eric Bischoff a grifter. And Eric Bischoff did not like that at all. Conrad was a little bit ticked off as well. And Eric Bischoff just, basically got pissed off. And this is the thumbnail. Actually, hold on. We'll make it a little clearer. There's the thumbnail. Meltzer's new low. That is the thumbnail that Eric Bischoff used to describe Dave Meltzer calling him a grifter. You know what's hilarious about it? Literally a month ago, this was Eric Bischoff's thumbnail. Trolling Meltzer is fun. Boy, you like to give it up the ass, but you don't like to take it up the ass, huh? So this time around, I defend Dave Meltzer. If you play, you must pay. So I find that funny, but this has to do with this. Dave Meltzer, in his rant about Bischoff, calling him a grifter because Bischoff still thinks that AEW is not successful and it's not making any money and blah, 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 and this and that. Dave Meltzer says, $180 million TV deal, 180 million, 160, 180 million. I don't remember the exact number. He said it was like 160, 180 million. My friends, was that ever made public? Was that ever announced by Warner Brothers Discovery? Nope. Was it ever announced publicly by AEW? Nope. Did the shareholders and the stockholders know exactly how much that deal was for? Nope. If you remember, these were wrestling journalists putting a rumored number out there. And because the number sounded so good, they kept saying it, kept saying it, and kept saying it, kept saying it. So now, a year later, plus, people said it so much, now it's perceived to be fact. So, Dave, with all due respect, show me the press release where that number was made public. Show me in the filings. Show me in the business world. It wasn't. But you see what I mean by this. So my point is, with AEW and Max, you have no idea how many people are watching AEW programming through Max. Do you think anybody out there, I'm going to buy the pay-per-view through Max because that'll help Tony. That'll make his numbers look better. Who does that? I have been a hardcore fan since 1979. And I could tell you, whether it was ECW or WWF or even WCW points and whatever else, indie, IPPVs, I never ever turn around and say, I'm going to buy it here instead of here because the optics are better. That'll help the person more. No, you buy where you always buy from, whatever you feel comfortable, whatever you're used to. Nobody truly knows. And when Tony Khan says he doesn't know numbers, I believe him. You know why I believe him? Because what was never also made public, so we don't know this either, and I will say that as a preface, is we don't know how much Tony gave to get. We don't know how much Tony Khan gave Warner Brothers Discovery in order to get the TV renewal. Do we know how many years this deal actually is? Was that ever made public? Was any of it made public? No. We have an idea. We have a good idea, but we don't truly know. So you don't know if Warner Brothers Discovery said, listen, it's part of the deal. We're going to offer the pay-per-views on Max. You get no cut from it. You get no cut from it. Now, I know that kind of sounds a little ridiculous, but remember, back in the day, wrestling companies would actually pay networks to have their shows on. I brought up very recently, we were talking about the old days of ECW, 2:00 in the morning on a Saturday night on Prime. We would watch it, and it wasn't like MSG wanted ECW on. No, Paul Heyman was buying it like an infomercial. What we watched was an hour-long infomercial. That's pretty much what it was. So you don't know what Tony Khan gave to get. So when he says he doesn't know these numbers, I brought up in the podcasting world, and believe me, I'm not comparing me to them, but you'll understand this important. A couple of years ago, I got signed by Blue Wire. Blue Wire is one of the biggest platforms out there. And I was there for about, I think, 2 years. And at the time, the wrestling shows that were on there was myself, JD from New York, Gallows and Anderson, Rocky Romero, Chris Van Vliet, and I think that's it. Maybe one other. After 2 years, they decided they only wanted Chris Van Vliet. More of a talk show thing. And plus, Chris is much more politically correct. He's not vulgar. He's not controversial. Very likable, very professional, an award winner. So they were upping their quality. So I didn't take it personal, but here's my point. When you ink a deal with a platform, there's usually two different types of deals. You get paid based on how many downloads, because the downloads have commercials, and the more downloads, the more commercials that are watched, therefore the more money is made. Doesn't that sound like Netflix? when Netflix posts how many millions of hours of WWE program that's watched, when they negotiate with advertisers, they show this is how many hours fans watch Raw on a weekly basis. They don't include other people's commercials because we're not watching it for other people's commercials. That's where Dave got it wrong a while back. So it's the same concept. But you can also get paid a flat fee. Flat fee. You know what? You don't want to get paid based on downloads? We'll give you $2,000 a month. Whether you have 100 downloads or 100,000 downloads. Now, if I said, yeah, give me the flat number, does it matter what the streaming numbers are? I don't get to negotiate because I'm getting a flat number, and it's based on just putting out a certain number of shows. Of course, it is a trillion times more complicated when you're talking about AEW and Warner Brothers Discovery. But if there was some type of an arrangement that it's not, the revenue being made is not based on how many people are purchasing a pay-per-view, when the TV deal comes up, Tony has no negotiating power with that unless he wants to negotiate a different deal. You know, so again, it's very complicated. But at the end of the day, I know I spent a few extra minutes on this, but if we're being straight up honest, anybody out there in the wrestling world, I don't care about the outside news world. I care about wrestling. Anybody in the wrestling world that is going to talk about the future of AEW or the, questionable future, if they don't mention Discovery Global and the fact that TNT and TBS are not being purchased by Netflix, then either they did not do their homework, they're late on their homework, or they're just using you for ad revenue. The future of AEW is unknown. That's a lie. And that's why Tony Khan is not making a bit. Listen, I would love to spin this and rag on Tony Khan for it. But this is why this is not an issue. Because they're going to be on TNT and TBS, Discovery Global. They're safe. They're safe. HBO Max may be changing. They may have to find a different platform. But again, we don't know what the numbers are. There could be 10,000 people buying it on Max. Full Gear did 140,000 rumored? So that's not even 10% of the buy rate. So you put it only on Amazon. You put it on that old subscription they used to do in the United Kingdom. So that's the deal. All right, so to answer everybody out there, as of right now, AEW's future is safe. It's safe. There's no other way to put it. There's no other way to put it. So, all right. Let me quickly get into Cena a little bit. We'll segue from Cena to Otunga to Prince, not Purple Rain. And then we'll get into all your questions. So get them ready. And you're very welcome, douche. Like I said, it is more boring to give facts. I'm not going to be one of those that splits the thumbnail in half, and I got my concerned look on my face, and on the bottom it says the future of AEW, with the Warner Brothers, and making it seem like there's turmoil. There's not. So, John Cena. What WWE has been considering, I wouldn't call it similar to Sting, but what was so awesome, see, this is where we kind of, you could get actors to do it, obviously, but this is where, if John Cena had like a whole bunch of sons that were growing up now, he probably could do something. But I also remember that WrestleMania entrance where I honestly, if I was tripping that day, I probably would have gone to the hospital. I don't take drugs, but if I took them and saw like 85 John Cenas come out, I would have fucking had an aneurysm. I would have just, what the fuck is wrong with me? I'm seeing 85 Cenas. When Sting had his final match and they came out and showed the different phases of Sting's career, from Surfer Sting to Crow Sting to Wolfpack, Joker. I've warmed up on Joker, but I'm just saying, like, Sting has had a whole bunch of different stages. What WWE is thinking of doing is getting into a little bit of thugonomics. I would fucking pop if I heard Word Life. Just even for a few seconds, I think you got to do that. And hopefully, if this does happen, if they hire a couple of, local models, actors that have the similar physique of John Cena. I mean, just, put on some thugonomics, have a couple of thugonomics, have some old school Cena, and go through different phases of Cena. If you do a video package, okay, but what a lot of people want is they want a WrestleMania quality intro for John Cena. I know it's not a pay-per-view premium live event, but it's still his final match. And what the talk is that most people are hoping for and want, and some behind the scenes have said that they have considered it and discussed it, is having a WrestleMania quality intro for John Cena. Remember, this is not on NBC this year. Saturday night's main event is only on Peacock. So they can go over if they want. And I have a feeling that they will. I don't know how much overtime they will, but they will. I hope this is what we get. Again, there's been different parts of John Cena's career that I did not like. I was a big fan of thugonomics, probably my favorite part. After a while, when he would do his intro and it always would end with the dick word, you could, it got a little played out after a while. I love the retro jerseys, the spinner belt. It was shocking at the time, because no one ever had anything like that, in wrestling before. And then the Super Cena was the worst. The Super Cena was the worst, and there's so many promos that come to mind, and then I think give Vince McMahon a little credit that Vince McMahon realized that you're going to have a little bit of a purge somewhere. And when Brock Lesnar beat the balls out of him, I think that was at SummerSlam, that was a purge. That was like, okay, all right, you got it. Here's the match where everybody wants to get his ass kicked, and this doesn't need to be him going out victorious and happy. Now, I've heard some people out there say, oh, Gunther should beat him within an inch of his life. Inch of his life. Yeah, carried out on a stretcher and no speech, no nothing, even if he unties his sneaker. Inch of his life. It's stupid. That's stupid. I don't have a problem with him losing. I think if he loses, and I expect him to lose, I think Gunther will show a sign of respect. I think Gunther will absolutely show a sign of respect. But that is pretty much what is going on. Now, here's where we have a little fun. Now, I got to be careful. Because at the end of the day, David Otunga is an attorney, and he's got more money than I do. And, you never know what someone will try to do, so I got to be very careful how I say this. He's blocked me on all platforms. I've been ghosted on YouTube. I post a comment trying to give him an answer or something that he got wrong about a month ago, and my comments are ghosted. Blocked on all social media platforms. I don't care. It doesn't bother me. I don't consider it a badge of honor either. But as I mentioned the other day, a lot of you may not know this, But if you remember Breakfast with Blassie, remember my old show, Breakfast with Blassie, the intro, when I used to say, they say it's mean to say you're green, but you gots to leave WWE. You're not fit to be the shit, so stay at home and make my grits. And then you heard Kev say, somebody's looking for a co-host, I'm available. That intro was towards David Otunga. Nothing personal. He didn't hit on my girlfriends back then. He didn't call me a fat bastard. You know, he didn't fucking do anything to me personally. We just weren't fans. It wasn't very good. Wasn't very good. I mean, he had the look, but that was pretty much it. You know, so we've lightened up on him. But now suddenly, you know, he's obviously, I think, in my opinion, having a midlife crisis. And me, when I have a midlife crisis, you know, I got to dye my hair, obviously. You know, I want to lose a few pounds, you know, try to be a better husband, a better dog parent, dog father, you know, try to be a better person. That's my way of having a midlife crisis. For him, it's, I want to be the next Maven on Busted Open. You know, and he's just putting shit out there. And the problem is that you have enough people out there that will put attention to it. That's the only reason why we're talking about it. You know, obviously, no apology for, you know, about that stupid comment with OVW and fucking Great Khali killing someone and other things. Now, I found something pretty fascinating. And it would only be appropriate if oh, don't tell me I don't have it. I have to have it. Yeah, I definitely have it. But I definitely have it. Let me, where are you? There you are. I sound like Bo Dallas. There you are. There you are. Suddenly, David Otunga is saying quite a bit of shit John Cena's way. And he posted a story this week that I found pretty fucking fascinating because, believe it or not, I actually believe him in a lot of what he claimed. John Cena verbally abused him, cussed. We say cursed in New York. Him, it's cussed. John Cena cussed him in a way, cost him his career, cost him, you know. So he puts out this scathing claim. And the best part about it is there's another John Cena story that he posted about John Cena going off on John Morrison backstage. And I went to click on the video to see what it was. And guess what, my friends? It's behind a fucking paywall. You got to be a member to watch the video. So before I tell you what he said this week, I want to set up something. You could go do Wayback Machine search. You could go on Google. What I'm about to say is not lying. John Cena is retiring. David Otunga somehow pops up, and now he's fucking everywhere. And now, lately, it's all this negative shit about John Cena. John Cena ruined the Nexus, buried the Nexus. He actually told Chris Van Vliet earlier this month, I think, that if John Cena didn't bury the Nexus could have been as big as this Shield. I can't fake laughing. I don't even find it funny. I find it stupid. I mean, I liked Wade Barrett. Fucking Heath Slater had an infatuation about his hair. You ever notice Heath Slater would get knocked out from Kane and he'd be unconscious, and instead of just selling he's unconscious, he'd be like this. Like fixing his hair. Ryback, forget it. I mean, my God, I had to go to confession back then and tell the priest, listen, I have a confession to make. I supported Ryback until Ryback became a dick. You know, you narrow it down. You know, Bad News Barrett was probably the best one of them all. You know, with all due respect, Bryan Danielson, we really don't put him with like Nexus, but now recently he says he called it ridiculous that the Nexus did not be part of this John Cena retirement. he thinks the Nexus should have been able to get a receipt and leave John Cena laying. He's like Ryback in a different form. This guy thinks that we care about Nexus, that we need to see a reunion. No. Do you see members of the Spirit Squad still bringing up this shit? Move on. Just like Jennifer did, move on. Let it go. Well. Before I read you what he said about John Cena, and lo and behold, somehow fucking Freddie Prinze Jr. gets involved in this. We were going to talk about David Otunga and Freddie Prinze Jr., the newest grifters, bashing WWE. And somehow they got intertwined in this, and you can't make this up. Here's what I was going to tell you. Dave proved me wrong. David proved me wrong. Go check Google, Wayback Machine. Go check 2012. How many interviews, articles David Otunga talked about John Cena? Maybe 2012 is a little too far back. Let's say 2014. Fair enough? Number of articles throughout the whole year, David Otunga, 0. Now, I know what some of you are going to say. Well, he was working for WWE at the time. Of course, he's not going to say anything. Okay, fine. Number of articles, 2017, 0. 2018, 0. 2019, 2020, 2021, 0, 0, 0. 2022, 0. 2023, 0. 2024, to quote Animal House, 0.0. 2025, John Cena's retirement year, 37. So, Mr. Grifter, now's the time to suddenly shit on Cena. His video that you got to pay for, what John Cena is really like. No, I'm sorry, there's the wrong one. The night John Cena went off backstage. This sounds like early Bischoff talking about Tony Khan. This sounds, you see where this is going? So he says this, okay? Now, it's an interesting story. I'm not going to deny that, but I'll tell you why you saw a dick. He recalls, wait. Oh, here it is. Yeah, it's on the other side. Wow, my printer prints both sides. I didn't realize that. All right. 2010, 9/24, Joey 9/24 day. On September 24th, 2010, WWE's in Paris. So he says that there was a tag match that had David Otunga and Wade Barrett versus John Cena and Evan Bourne. I looked it up. He is telling the truth. Goldust was also part of the tour. He is telling the truth. There was a point where Goldust had suggested a simple rope-based heel spot. They were going to do a spot involving a rope. So David Otunga says that Goldust made sure that John Cena was aware of the spot. And during the match, David Otunga set up for the spot. John Cena was in position, hanging over the top rope. David Otunga played it up to the crowd. And when he walked over and reached for the rope to do the sequence, but Cena does this awful sell. He doesn't really sell it. He emphasized that the move had not even started and Cena reacted early. So they go through the match. They get to the back and David Otunga says, quote, Cena is pissed. From that point on, Cena began berating him, shouting insults to him, even mid-match, telling him he was terrible. He lived in a fantasy world. He would be sent back to Florida Championship Wrestling once the tour ended. And then he didn't even get a chance to say he was sorry. When they walked through the curtain, David Otunga said that John Cena berated him further, insisting that he wasn't a real wrestler, that he didn't belong, and threatening to call Vince McMahon any office immediately. And then he says he went up to Goldust, and Goldust said, man, that's messed up. He should never talk to anybody like that. And later on, he says that, John Cena cussed him and berated him like no one ever did. And he said in 15 years, he's never seen, anything like that with anybody else. Now, Goldust is still alive. And I think Goldust would stay out of this, but there's quite a few people that were on that tour that were alive. And I have not seen one person come out and say, that ain't true. What are you talking about? That's not true. So I do believe the story. I actually do believe that John Cena might have definitely have been an asshole back then. I don't think anybody ever thought that John Cena was an altar boy. All right, but here's the thing. You put this out there a week before he retires. You just did an interview with Chris Van Vliet, and this story was not mentioned. You had year after year after year, and you wait until 1 week before. I mean, let that sink in for a minute. You, sir, it doesn't make you look any better. You waited a week. You know why you did it now? Because John Cena's all over the headlines. You want to maximize the exposure. That in New York is what we call a dick move, right? You want to vent on John Cena? You had plenty of years to do it, and you never did. I hold this in. I cannot hold it any longer. And then the night John Cena told off John Morrison. What's next? The night John Cena cheated on his girlfriend? The night John Cena stole someone's chicken salad? Like, this guy is turning into a goof. So I just wanted to share, but here's the best part of it all. Freddie Prinze Jr. Earlier this week, do we have, we do have a picture of Freddie Prinze Jr., do we? I think we do. I found an interesting picture. Oh, yeah. I sound like Tom Otunga. By the way, what is that? What is this? Is this like something for peace? Like, what is this? Is okie dokie? Like, what is that? I honestly don't know. Maybe somebody can educate me. Maybe I shouldn't be making fun of it. But Freddie Prinze Jr. goes on his podcast a week ago. Okay? That's what it is? Okay? I hopefully that's what it is. Freddie Prinze Jr. goes on his podcast a week ago and says that a friend of his that works for Disney says that ESPN is hot about the WWE deal. They're not happy. Now, Freddie Prinze Jr., Mark Henry, and a bunch of others, they are perfect examples of what I say for years and years and years. Words matter. And when you are a public personality, what you say, people listen. And you get tons of people who actually buy into the shit. That's why, as offended as Mark Henry was with the Cornette NWA situation back then, I played for you guys a couple of weeks ago, 2 months before Mark Henry started working for the WWF. Jim Cornette said the exact same phrase towards Lawrence Taylor. A black man. So you had 20 years to discuss this with Jim Cornette. And instead you go on TMZ, say, man, if you don't like black people, why don't you just say I don't like black people? First of all, and I'm not defending Jim Cornette, and I'm not making this about him, but you look at the history of Jim Cornette. There's no signs of that at all. If anything, he's worked with a lot of black performers. People bring up Smoky Mountain Wrestling. But to this day, Mr. Henry, there's a lot of people out there that will still say, Cornette's a fucking racist. And a lot of people also think that he was making fun of famine. But listen, I do believe that it rightfully so was interpreted as being racial because everybody in Ethiopia were African, black. So I get that. But to just go on a TMZ and throw a comment out there, that stays forever. And so Freddie Prinze Jr. goes on his podcast, and this is $1 billion deal. $1 billion deal. And he says, I got a friend of mine that works at Disney, and he says that ESPN's hot right now. They're not happy. So what happens? It fucking goes viral. And I went on my news update and I said, what the fuck does that mean? I have a friend who works at Disney. That narrows it down to about 370,000 people. Does he work in the executive office? Does he work in the mailroom? Does he work in fucking Florida dressing up in, I'm a goofy. Yeah, I got a friend that works for Disney. Oh, that narrows it down. And honestly, everybody's like, what are you talking about? I can't out my friend. My friend will get in trouble. I personally do not believe that anybody in ESPN is talking to your friend, just by the water cooler. Hey, how was your date last night? Did you get laid? Yeah, but man, that fucking ESPN deal. I couldn't get hard. I just kept thinking about fucking, we gave all that money to WWE. Like, no. I got a friend at Disney. So now, Freddie Prinze Jr., you're officially in grifter territory. And he's been trashing WWE quite a bit. Because WWE don't pay no mind to him anymore. He don't sit no front row at Raw. You never see him sitting in front row anymore. You don't see what happened to the promotion. What happened to this? It's interesting. He made some Bray Wyatt claims after Bray Wyatt passed away. But Bray Wyatt can't fucking call you out on your shit. But here's where this is funny. When David Otunga was talking about the John Cena stuff at that time, Freddie Prinze Jr. was there. Not in Paris, I don't believe, but he was there maybe with the Morrison stuff. And David Otunga says that Freddie Prinze Jr. said to David Otunga, yeah, Cena's a jerk. He's a jerk. He was trying to bury you in there. So now these two, oh my God. Oh my God. I want to see the love child that comes out of David Otunga and Freddie Prinze Jr. Put him with Ryback, that's it. Table for three. I actually would pay to see that. Have them, all three of them. And they're all good in shape. Go to a health food store. Go get protein shakes. Have a table for three. Have some protein shakes and just shit on WWE. If you're going to do it, just go out there and admit it. But you got this guy a week before Cena retires. Let's just trash the shit out of him. It's kind of like, what I compare it to? Remember Kavanaugh? I don't want to get political. You remember that guy Kavanaugh who's going for the Supreme Court? And there was rumors for a long time Kavanaugh might be put in the Supreme Court and like right before he goes in, some woman comes out of nowhere and she's like, yeah, he abused me when I was 17 at this party. And it's like, you wait until now? And then, I don't know. I just find shit like that Bush League, man. That's pussy. That's ghetto. That's dick mode. That's asshole mode. Even Ric Flair this week, Ric Flair probably pissed me off the most. When Ric Flair goes on a podcast. I know I podcast. I'm the OG, remember? Since 2003. But everybody goes on a podcast and says dumb shit. Otunga, podcast. Ric Flair, guest on a podcast. Prince, podcast. Podcast is the Roo Nation. We have the C Nation, we got the Roo Nation. Woo Nation is now Roo Nation. He goes on a podcast and says, I talked to Hulk Hogan the night before, and I truly believe that he died because of street drugs. Now, the interviewers, because they're just amazed, epic, unbelievable that they got Ric Flair on as a guest, instead of asking the counter question, They're like, really? Wow. Oh, ooh, wow. My question would have been to Rick. Rick, what the fuck did you two talk about the night before? Did you say, hey, listen, I'm going to go take Wendy out for dinner. What are you going to do, Hulk? I got my guy bringing me some blow in a half an hour. Like, what was the conversation to make you think street drugs? Were you on the phone just talking about old times? Talking about WCW, and all of a sudden you heard in the background, Hulk, where's my damn money? I gave you all this ice. And Hulk's like, I got to go, brother. I got a little problem here, brother. What were you talking about the night before that would make you think that it was street drugs? Or was Hulk talking to you like, Rick, I really miss being with you? Like, where would that come from? And then Hulk Hogan's widow, who I think is, no big deal either, but she's like, that didn't happen. He didn't die from street drugs. Instead of Ric Flair just realizing, all right, yeah, maybe I shouldn't have said that. He's like, okay, Sky, okay. How's about we just focus on his legacy? I'm like, asshole, you're the one that brought up street drugs that just fucking questioned his legacy. My God, man. My God. A lot of bullshit this week. You know what's funny right now? Look how many people are tuning in right now. 420. 420. Look. Yeah, let's get this reject off the screen. My God. What other goof is going to come out of the woodwork? What goof is going to come out of the woodwork from here? All right. Let's get into your stuff. And wherever it goes, it goes. How many topics? Nobody knows. I'm going to give a super shout out to Jim Kahn, 1479. Thank you, my friend, for all the hate Triple H gets. At least he's not throwing out corny jokes and racial stereotypes like Vince. Back in the day, Triple H, I never forget the Booker T thing. I'm not for stereotype stuff. I actually commend Triple H when somebody brought up, about there was a pay-per-view or premium live event that there were not any black wrestlers on there, and Triple H was like, look, we don't put people in matches or opportunities based on skin color. Whoever's, is in that time is in. It's and I do believe that. I've always, me personally, and listen, I can never ever understand the levels of bullshit that a lot of you have gone through, even today. Some of you out there who are black. I could only imagine. I have a friend of mine, anybody who was on Patreon, you ever see that video I put up with Stanley? I should maybe make it public on this show one night. I got a friend for 25 years, and his name is Stanley. He's full with dreadlocks and everything, and he used to clean my office, cars. He had a cleaning business. I insured it. And one day we were in my office, and we got into a very, very deep conversation. And, it was about racism. And make a long story short, in the middle of that conversation, he tells me a story about the shopping center that I am in. The shopping center I am in. And long story short, he was throwing out garbage for me. And I had given him the keys for my car because I had some cleaning stuff in my car that he needed for upstairs in my office. And he walked to my car and he opened the door, and a woman who was no longer a cashier in one of the stores runs out, and she's like, "What are you doing? You're breaking into that car. I'm calling the fucking cops." And he's like, "Ma'am, no, I'm getting something, Anthony X." She's like, "I don't." And she immediately assumed the worst. And he was very hurt by it. And, you know, when he was saying this stuff to me, man, I was just, I'm not trying to be dramatic. I was gutted. I was like, holy shit. Like, even this today, seeing that. So I could never understand it. I've always been treat everybody the same. Make fun of everybody the same. Treat everybody good the same as well. And I always believe that, you know, if people truly want equality, you treat each other the way you want to be treated. Doesn't take away the pain that people experienced in the past, the present, and even in the future. But at some point, you know, I truly believe people want to look in the mirror. And I've used this quote many times in the past, not just for people of color. I said it about the Iconics. I've said it about other people. I said, you know, I wonder if some people, you know, like in the mirror, look in the mirror and say, I have this job in the WWE because I'm from Australia. I'm from England. I'm from Tanzania. Because there was a point where it felt like WWE was just trying to sign people from different countries to try to fit quotas. There was a point that everybody used to talk about that. I always would want to look in the mirror. That's why I never liked the DEI stuff. I always wanted to look in the mirror and say, did I get this job because I really earned it and I'm qualified and I'm the right person for the right job? Or did I get it simply because I'm a woman, or because I'm gay, or because I'm black, or because I'm Chinese, or because of whatever it is, I'm fat? You know, I would want to know, you know, like, I got this job. I was thinking of the movie Trading Places. Trading Places. You know, think of Eddie Murphy. When Eddie Murphy was put in that position. And the only reason why I was put in that position because there was a dollar bet. Bet you I could get this guy from the ghetto and turn him into this. And it was more of a joke than because they thought that they really believed in him. That's fucked up. So, I'm glad that Triple H takes the stance that he does. And the reason why I don't think he gets much heat about it is because deep down inside, I think people truly believe that he sees merit and ability and talent and momentum. You look at a lot of black performers. I don't want to just single out black, but you look at a lot of black performers the last 10 years, and there are quite a few that have done tremendous. And I don't think that they were pushed because they were black, and I don't think they were held back because they were black. They were given an opportunity, and they shined. From Bianca Belair to Bobby Lashley. I know somebody's going to say, well, Bobby Lashley was around 20 years ago. I'm talking about the last 10 years. You know, you look at many stars, even in AEW. People may forget, in the early days of AEW, you know, AEW was accused of not having a lot of black talent. And you don't want them to suddenly go on a hiring spree for black talent. Then you feel like, oh, they're just hiring these people because they're black. That's fucked up too. You want to hire people because they have the talent and you think that they can excel in what they do. So I like that Triple H doesn't go there, and neither does AEW. You know, if you want to do it in a storyline, I mean, look, whether you will agree with me or not, Muhammad Hassan, one of my favorite characters that I would have liked to have seen gone so much further in wrestling and didn't, for obvious reasons. Look at that whole storyline. I mean, it went off the rails when they simulated the beheadings. I mean, that's WWE going off the rails. But early on, those segments, powerful, man. That's where you turn around and you take something like that. I mean, I don't think you could do it now. But 25 years ago, 23 years ago, yeah, you could. That was very, very powerful. And a lot of people look back on Muhammad Hassan's, you know, and they're like, wow, I dug it. Was he a spectacular wrestler? No. But it just, and he was Italian. He's a paisan. All right. Thank you for that, Jim Kahn. Daniel-san, we can just tell WWE on ESPN is awkward for the ESPN talent. WWE belongs on its own network. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to you, my friend, as well. Merry Christmas. You know, here's the thing. I compare, I mean, listen, I don't watch other sports like I used to. I still watch baseball, even though some of the rules now are awful. I still watch some football, basketball, a little hockey. But what I will say is I compare some ESPN personalities in the basketball world, the baseball world, hockey. I compare it to Jim Cornette in old school. And Jim Cornette, old school, like he still, prefers old school. And I think for ESPN, for some athletes, wrestling is, sorry for using this term. I don't like using this term, but for them, it's fake. It's not a real sport. It's entertainment. It's very, very athletic, but it's entertainment. It's predetermined. And I think there are enough people, listen, we played it about 2 months ago, 3 months ago. There was, the person got Cody Rhodes' name wrong. And they were like talking about an upcoming wrestling event, and somebody was giggling a little bit. You could feel the vibe, like, why are we plugging this? Not everybody in real sports likes professional wrestling, doesn't want professional wrestling to be included in that hemisphere. So that'll always remain. I mean, back in the 80s, when we grew up watching wrestling, there would be some exceptions. Here in New York, Channel 2, Warner Wolf, he every month he would cover wrestling at the Garden, at the Meadowlands. George Michael's Sports Machine, respected professional wrestling, would cover wrestling on there. But they were an exception. 95% of sports shows out there thought wrestling wasn't a joke, but it wasn't sports. Sports, not predetermined, athletic competition, real competition. And that is the old school mentality. And I honestly, I don't agree with it, but I respect it. I respect it because it's predetermined. When someone, and if we're being honest for a second, when someone touts 17-time world heavyweight champion, 17 times the promoter put the belt on you. 17 times the promoter took the belt off of you. Compare that to Mike Tyson. Compare that to Muhammad Ali. Compare that to George Foreman, whoever you want. And then you understand why some people will be like, okay, he's a 17-time world champion. Okay. You know what I mean? Like, that's the perception in a lot of the real sports world. Wrestling media don't acknowledge it because they're insulted by it. Totally agree with them. But you have to understand it. You don't have to agree with it. You have to understand it. That's why AEW. I'm not saying this to brag, but a lot of you out there get it. We got it years ago. We get it now. When Tony Khan, I'm sorry for repeating, when Tony Khan says this is AEW's greatest year ever, you get the usual pundits. Ticket sales are down. Pay-per-views are down. Ratings are down. Merchandise sales are down. How's it the greatest year ever? Because you don't understand what AEW is. It's not a vanity project, but this is Tony Khan's lifelong dream to be a wrestling promoter, to have a wrestling promotion, to have wrestlers perform, to give an extra opportunity, to entertain fans, to put on an alternative. Doesn't matter if he makes $100 million. Doesn't matter if he loses $100 million. As long as the company is stable and everybody gets along and it's a fun environment and people have time for their families and this and that, as long as everything's in sync, no drama, no stabbing in the back, no bullshit. When all of that happens and it's just a good place to work, Sure, it's not going to lead me to get a fucking Hall of Fame shrine somewhere else, but it's good enough to have a fun platform. When you all that is in sync, that makes it the best year ever. I agree 100% with Tony Khan. 2025 is the best year ever. You don't have Ray Phoenix saying, I got inhumane treatment. I'm not saying he didn't. But you don't have Ray Phoenix. You don't have Ricky Starks. You don't have Miro. You don't have fucking Andrade before. You don't have the CM Punk stuff. You don't have the stabbing in the back. Yes, the wrong people won in those arguments. But the fact of the matter is, they're the ones with power. They won, and now you accept it. You don't have to agree with everything, but you need to understand it. If you understand why AEW exists, then everything makes sense. When you see people out there would just laugh and rip, how's it the best year ever? They don't have a clue. They're looking at it like a publicly traded company. They're looking at it like the person's bottom line. That's why when you hear the Jericho stuff, when you hear this stuff, you hear that stuff, it's not a money issue. Tony Khan could outbid anybody in wrestling if he wants to. It's what the wrestler wants. You know, it comes to a point where Chris Jericho's like, look, you know, extra $5 million would be great and everything, but, you know, it's at the point now where, you know, I'd rather just, you know, kick back and do this, that. We don't know. But that's really what it comes down to. So you need to understand the real sports world. And when they do chuckle without you looking about professional wrestling, there's some people out there, and you guys know I'm right about this. There's some people in the ESPN world that will plug wrestling, and then when you're not looking, do I really have to fucking plug this? Oh, are we really putting this legitimacy in it? That's not going to change. No matter how, you know, like someone looks professional, no matter how nice the suit or how good the person is or how awesome the power couple comes across, no matter how much the wrestler loves football, no matter how much the wrestler loves hockey, it's what it is. You know, I remember when Renee Paquette was going to join, I think, the NHL network, and it was going to be, what was the name of the show? It was going to be Jack and Pack. Jack and Pack. Sounds like a drink. Give me a Jack and Pack. It was going to be Renee Paquette and Jackie Redmond doing a show, you know, interviews and stuff with hockey. And, you know, people didn't even give it a chance. Oh, it's just a whole bunch of women getting together and talking about hockey. And what are they going to do? Talk about makeup next and this and that. And, you know, obviously that noise was moronic. Didn't even give it a chance. It lasted a little while, and then it was gone. But the point is that, you know, as soon as you hear wrestling, people will diminish its value. That's how it is. That's how it is. Me, you, wrestlers, we're not going to be able to change the mindset of those people. There's always going to be those people. You got to just stay away from those people, ignore them, or respect their difference of opinion and still do what you do. Tristan says, since Don Tony, since Cena is finally retiring next Saturday, what's my all-time favorite Cena match? Boy, it comes down to him and CM Punk, the first run. Still, you know, like his match with Kevin Owens. That era of John Cena is my favorite, because John Cena was pulling moves out that we normally didn't see, or maybe in some cases never saw him do. And it kind of reminded me of Hulk Hogan in Japan. You know, you watch Hulk Hogan matches in the United States, it's the same shit. It's the same shit. Entertaining, but still the same shit. And then you watch Hulk Hogan in Japan, you'd be like, what? He could do all this? Holy shit, he could work. Then you realize, yeah, but that's not what the United States wanted. That's why his career lasted as long as it did. You know, he was a character, cartoon, he's superhero. And that's how he was used. And, you know, for some wrestlers, you know, less is more. And when you saw John Cena putting extra in it, that's why, let me tell you something, man. When John Cena says he's going to put on his best performance with Gunther, I think this is going to be near a 5-star match. I think this is going to be like one of the greatest matches of Cena's career. Because now the gloves are off in the sense that he could do whatever. He could pull any move out. You know, this is his final match. And we may see things that we have not seen him do in years. So it's more of an era, a period of time, because Cena's not known for 5-star matches. You know, he still had his gimmicky stuff, but when he put in the extra effort and showed us that he can hang with CM Punk, he can hang with AJ Styles, he can hang with Kevin Owens, he can hang with Sami Zayn, and he can hang with Randy Orton, he can hang with others. That's when you realize, okay, all right, he's not just a character, you know, so. Zimpulse says Rollins versus Cena versus Lesnar triple threat Royal Rumble was the best version of those guys. Yeah, I think that's an excellent choice. You know what's interesting? Even though Cena never took a long absence because of injury, I almost feel like the second half of John Cena's career was better than the first, you know, even though he was already established. And it reminds me a little bit of Shawn Michaels. Because Shawn Michaels, you know, left in, 97? I think it was. And when he came back, you know, he was already, you know, legitimate superstar. You know, had a lot of issues, no question. But when he came back and had his second run, I fucking loved Michaels' second run more than the first. You know, John Cena didn't work as many matches, but, you know, early on, you know, doing the stuff with Punk and Styles and, you know, everybody else, you started to see that, you know, this guy actually can go. But, you know, it's just that wasn't necessary, and that probably prolonged his career much longer. Hans Joker. Would I like to comment on the hypocrisy of pro sports also being predetermined and rigged? Well, you know, if we're talking about the scandals going on, you know, rigged, some people, yes. The temptation of money, temptation of helping friends get money. I'll never understand someone who makes tens of millions of dollars, who risks it all for like another million or a couple of thousand or a couple of, you know, like sometimes it's just the rush, the addiction, the adrenaline. You know, if anybody's old enough to remember when Pete Rose bet on baseball, you know, two things about that. Number one, he always bet on his team to win. That is the big difference for me. If he bet on his team to lose, he absolutely could figure out ways to make his team lose. Put the worst pitcher in the game. You know, insist on an intentional walk. You know, like there's ways that a manager can fuck up a game. But a manager cannot manipulate a game to win. It's obviously, that's what you try to do every day. The second thing is, when you see how much Pete Rose bet, he didn't bet that much. Pete Rose in 1979 was I think it was 1979. It was either 78 or 79. He signed with the Phillies, and he got a contract worth about $3 or $4 million. He was the highest paid athlete in sports. And that was 79, 80. That guy had so much money already, and yet risked it all for stupid bets, stupid bullshit bets, because it became an addiction. So, people rigging sports, yeah, they definitely deserve to be banished. But that's why I always laughed when people would bet on wrestling. Because there's got to be some way, somehow, someone who's going to bet on wrestling and knows someone who knows someone who knows someone who knows someone in a creative that, knows who's going over that night, or the day of the show, and they look at the booking sheet and they see everybody who's going over. What stops someone from just saying, hey, I'm going to go outside, smoke a cigarette? And you're like, hey, John, Otunga's going to win. Just want to let you know. Or you get a burner phone. Hey, you know that game I wanted to get? Remember that game I told you, I was thinking about getting? We weren't sure if we were going to get. Yeah, I'm going to get the game. And that's like the sign of like, yeah, bet on so-and-so. Jim Kahn, thank you for the double spot, my friend. Thank you. Cena could have had an epic run, but The Rock taking his ball and going to Hollywood ruined a lot of plans. Oh, John Cena had an epic run. Cena, if you're saying that Cena could have had an epic run where he was on top and everybody was good with it, that would never have happened. There were too many years of Super Cena. There were too many years of let's go Cena, Cena sucks. God rest Kev's soul. Up until April, Kev and I were still debating on Cena. He was not a fan. He's not a fan. Check out, a lot of people felt that way. So Cena, after all those years, I don't think, having a dominating run on top, I don't think that would have helped anybody. I don't think it would have helped anybody. I mean, look, there's enough Cena fans who would have loved it, but he's one of the greatest of all time. And honestly, when Cena says, I wouldn't change a thing, I absolutely would. There's a lot that I would change looking back on Cena's career. But you want to know something? I also look at it like this. There are people that Cena feuded with that I became a bigger fan of when I was not a fan of Cena. I actually got more behind CM Punk when he was feuding with Cena. And I was blocked from CM Punk back then on Twitter. I'm still blocked now, even though for 9 years we've been defending him for the most part, praising him to an extent, even supported a lot of his outside stuff. I actually, sometimes when you don't like this person, you become a bigger fan of this person. So Brock Lesnar, absolutely popped more for Brock Lesnar when he got to, dominate Cena a little bit. Listen, I say this in a respectful way about the David Otunga stuff. When David Otunga says that, Cena buried the Nexus, and he truly believes that they could have been, pushed almost like the Shield, good for him to believe in yourself that much. But there's a reason 12 years ago, or 12 years ago, we made that goofy rap about him. There's a reason why 10 years ago, people loved that one night when Cena got destroyed and Justin Roberts got choked from Daniel Bryan. After a while, what's funny? He talks about the Nexus, but he never talks about CM Punk. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's his career. His entire career is Nexus. So in order for his career to have legitimacy, he has to put extra legitimacy in Nexus. My friend, Nexus was good for a hot minute, and then after a while, it was like, all right, it's enough. And that's why it trimmed down. Nobody thinks of Daniel Bryan, Bryan Danielson now and thinks Nexus. You know, it's like what Paul Heyman said not too long ago in an interview. When was the last time people thought of the Shield when they look at Roman Reigns? You know, now they think of the bloodline, they think of himself. You know, what you do outside of a faction, you know, unfortunately, no one created. You look at Wade Barrett now. I don't think of Nexus when I think of Wade Barrett, you know, but for him, that's all he has to latch on to. And you kind of understand that, if we're being honest. Ryback had a singles career and could have had a much longer one if he didn't, you know, have the issues that he did. But for him, you know, this is all he has. So this is why, you know, it's we were held back. We were underutilized. We could have gone so much further. Yeah, and I could have had a vagina if I was a girl. You know, like, you know, coulda, woulda, shoulda. But history doesn't change. All right. We've gone 90 minutes. We'll go another 30. We'll finish at 10:05. Benjamin says he misses Kevin, Barry, and Cena. You know, I miss Kev, period. The one thing about him, Barry, and Cena is he truly felt that way. And, you know, was nothing personal towards Cena, but he just was not a fan. And, you know, I could picture now, like, if a week from tomorrow, if Kev and I were still doing the show and we said, Kev, he's retired, and it probably was good. Thank God. Thank God it's over. I honestly think that's would have been his answer. And I think that's the answer for quite a few people out there. I have no problem with anybody being a fan or not being a fan of someone. You know, I respect their views. Just respect mine in return. Michael Gonzalez, how do I think they will announce John Cena for the Hall of Fame after his final match? If you're asking me like what year, I personally think, see, I always try to think one step ahead. We mentioned on Wednesday that Netflix advertised Cena for the Raw after WrestleMania. Now, that was deliberate. And I brought up, and for our channel members here on YouTube, I showed you the actual screenshots. They advertised AJ Lee 2 weeks before she returned to Madison Square Garden. And then they took it down. And then he did the same thing towards Roman Reigns. And then they took it down. And the idea is that they want to put that little nugget out there to get more people to tune in. What's funny about Netflix, though, here's the thing, is that if you ever, this is why I don't like when Netflix does that, because Netflix, their rating is for a whole week. If you look at their website and they tout the numbers, they don't show you the first 24. I don't mean the TV show, the first 24 hours, and then the week overall. It's based on the whole week. So if you don't advertise AJ Lee in advance, and we find out that night that AJ Lee appears, you have 6 days to say, oh, let me go see what happened. And you go watch it. But I expect them to pull the teasing of Cena. But if Cena's going to be on the Raw after WrestleMania, and you want Cena at WrestleMania in Vegas, how do you get around with, wait, we just did a whole retirement. People paid big money to see the final Raw. You know, that's the thing that I laughed about Netflix. I posted for the channel members that big advertisement from a couple of weeks ago, the final Raw. And I'm like, fuck you, the final Raw. Until next year when he makes it the final Raw. No. You want to say the final match, final match on Raw, but they wanted to keep it a surprise, obviously. But That's why you don't do stuff like that. It diminishes it in the future. But how do you get around it with everything going on? You put them in the Hall of Fame. What happens when you put him in the Hall of Fame? Unlike Lex Luger, he is on the rampway with everybody else who gets put in the Hall of Fame for night 1 and night 2. And if you want the Raw after WrestleMania, you could have all the Hall of Famers show up again. So that's how you could get Cena a little extra appearance, and I don't think anybody would have an issue. When it comes to Vegas, I was watching something on TV the other day. In Las Vegas, this is not for a sporting event. This is not for WrestleMania. This is just Vegas. $9 for a bottle of water. $9 for a bottle of water. Everything in Vegas, what do you say? Everything in Vegas stays in Vegas? Everything in Vegas is 5 times more expensive than everywhere else. So if you're going to tease Cena, put him in the Hall of Fame this year. If he doesn't go in, 2026, I should say. If he doesn't go in the Hall of Fame 2026, he probably won't go in until 2028. Because for some reason, I don't see John Cena going in the Hall of Fame in 2027 because WrestleMania will be in Saudi Arabia. And I'm not saying that Cena would not go in the Hall of Fame in Saudi Arabia, but remember, how are they going to handle the Hall of Fame in Saudi Arabia? That's something no one has thought about. So I think he could very well go in the Hall of Fame. Stephanie, I don't think should be the headliner. Stephanie, obviously has earned it, but I don't want Stephanie's music to be the final music when they do the Hall of Fame. When they announce all the people and then you hear that music, I think Cena should go in the Hall of Fame next year. Continue that momentum. We'll see. We will see. But, look, if he goes in, they'll just, talk about him like they do now. Few of you asking, do I really think Cena, this is his final match? I do. Shawn Michaels, we understood why he came back for one more. It turned out to be awful, but, we understood it. But Cena, it's a little bit different. It's not that he would be lying to the fans or lying to the kids. I don't even think it's that. I just think that Cena, he's got this about himself that if he says something, he sticks to his word. Not always, but in a case like this, I do. I don't see him. Do I see him hitting a spot on someone? Do I see him in a year or two showing up and doing this and hitting somebody with with a spot? Absolutely. But as far as an advertised match, even if Saudi Arabia offered him $50 million, I don't see him having another match. I could see him doing a spot, but not a match. Fresh and Fly, have you ever been on a cruise? Should WWE do a WWE-style cruise in the summer for the fans like the Jericho cruise? Yes, I was on a cruise, and believe it or not, this is just by luck. I have old retro photos in my OBS files from past episodes. This is actually a screenshot of me on a cruise. 1986 is the only cruise I ever went on. We went to, where did we go? We went to the Bahamas. That's me all the way on the right. I was into Miami Vice at that time. That's my dad. My dad was pimping at that time. And that's my mom, and that's my brother. That is legitimately me on a cruise. But WWF in the mid-90s did cruises. There's an infamous photo online of, I think, Bret Hart and Sonny and Shawn Michaels and a few others. They did a cruise, and we've covered it in the past. I don't think they would do one. I think the problem is you're not going to limit on the cruise alcohol. I mean, of course you could drink a beer if you go to WrestleManias or if you have a skybox, but I just don't see that kind of interaction, that intimate interaction. Could WWE do it? Of course. If TKO fucking, and listen, nah, you know how they wouldn't do it? Could you imagine the price? For a whole 5 days or, like to go on a cruise with WWE stars, first of all, it'd probably be like 10 G's a person to go. I mean, and second of all, I mean, who's going to be on there? It's probably be like the secondary talents, even though it's still nothing wrong with that. I just don't see WWE doing that. To have that close interaction, you'd have next to no privacy. I mean, the wrestlers what are they going to do? Stay in their cabins when it's time to eat? Where are they going to go? There's going to be like a separate room for just the wrestlers to eat. Like, I think the logistics would be kind of tough. I'd be very surprised if they ever did that ever again. Could we see a cruise where there's like 2 or 3 wrestlers on it as guests? Maybe, but I just don't see WWE doing it. I think it would just be a hot mess, and I think it would just be too expensive. And plus, what do you do for those 5 days? Like, yeah, you could do a wrestling event. You could do some matches, but just don't see it. I don't see it. Jericho Cruise, it's different. Jericho Cruise, the people on Jericho's cruise are more like the ones you would see at a wrestling convention. Like, it's a lot of, people that are, past their prime or indie stars. You get a few stars of today, but not, like, you're not getting your Roman Reigns, you're not getting your Brock Lesnar, and you're not getting your John Cena. You're going to get, you get, see, I don't want to name any names because it sounds like I'm diminishing them. The Jericho Cruise, I know people have been on it, and most have told me that they had a great time. Some people, I think, expected too much, but I just don't see WWE doing it. I just don't. All right. Ride with Anthony. What does Ride with Anthony say? Ride with Anthony says, he told Kevin to be on cam so he could give a better stream. After his passing, I get why he didn't want to. There was many reasons why. I mean, it was just also logistics. When you understand his situation at his house, he didn't have like the strongest of internet connections. He would have internet issues. He wasn't going to be able to put in like FiOS and stuff like that. There was also the issues of, him being a little bit too conscious about his appearance. There was nothing wrong with his appearance. I think we only speculate some of it now, but there was a lot. And I will tell you, for quite a while, he was doing it. He was doing video. We absolutely were going to do it. I had a webcam for him, but, he was not the most tech savvy person. So it just was very overwhelming for him. Early days, it was overwhelming for me. You guys have no idea when, my computer used to sound like a hairdryer in the background because I didn't even understand that my graphics card was at 100% and my fucking fan is on full blast. The early days of the Minority Report, if you listen closely, is echoing. System might get the blue screen of death. We would have to redo shows. I mean, it was very, very challenging. To have someone who was just used to pressing Skype and talking to suddenly have this connection. Can't do this, change these settings, do this, do that, do this. And in the midst of it, he's got his real job at home. it was very overwhelming. It was very overwhelming. But, that's why we did some shows without camera. I just wish when we did the early days on YouTube, me and him, I shouldn't have been on camera. I should have taken a stance that it's either both of us or none of us. Because I see even Cornette's show. Cornette doesn't do video. Cornette just puts one fucking thumbnail for 3 hours and everybody's fine with it. And I think I overthought how much we needed to do. So I put that a lot on me. I told him back when we first returned and we were going to go to Utah, I'm like, Kev, I'm not doing video either. He's like, you do video. He's like, I'm fine. I'm like, no. I'm like, that was wrong for me to do the first time around. If you're doing a call-in show, and, on the phone is so-and-so, it's different. You look at anybody out there that does shows, and they have, we're going to have so-and-so on as a guest, even a big sports star, and they're audio only. But as a regular host, it should have just been both on video or none on video. So, Raul is asking, am I doing a year-end or New Year's Eve show? I haven't decided on the New Year's Eve show yet. One thing I will tell you is I am absolutely not simulcasting like fireworks from the city and all that other stuff. That I put in so much prep for that, and it was a hot mess, and I don't think anybody cared. If I do one New Year's Eve, it'll probably just be like this. Just sit down format, have the midnight toast. I think so. Wait. New Year's Eve is what, Thursday this year? New Year's Eve is a Wednesday. Yeah, I think so. I probably won't do a news update that day, or we'll kind of mix the two together. But yeah, I probably will. As far as year end, I don't know if I'll do a year end, but I am going to definitely do year end awards this year. We're going to give everybody the opportunity to vote. We're going to put up threads. Because the community on YouTube, it's not just channel members. I could put it for everyone. We're definitely going to do awards this year. We might even go Blackheart style. If anybody that doesn't know what that means, back when we used to do the hotlines, we would do the Blackheart year-end awards, and we would have some pretty interesting awards. I mean, some of them were very politically incorrect. I mean, we had the Pink Slip Award. Like, who do you want to see fired in 2026? Or the Comfort Inn Award. Because Comfort Inn used to be a very popular hotel back in the day, especially if you wanted to get get a little busy with someone and you only wanted to stay for 4 hours. So we used to have the men's and the women's version of the Comfort Inn Award. Like, who's the one person, if you had the opportunity just to have a one-night stand, like, who would you choose? We can't do that in 2025 anymore. I think now it's, who would you like to have a soda with or have a coffee with? So we came up with a lot of awards. Not any of this, tell me he didn't just say that award. Like, fuck that. So we'll probably bring back Blackheart style. I still have all the old categories, so we'll definitely do it. We'll do. Listen, like I said, even though Kev is only with us in spirit right now, and he's chilling in the back. He's right there. He's right there. Why are you looking the other way? Staring at China. But even though he's with us in spirit, my style, my authenticity, just the way that we do things, that never changes. He influenced me for too many years, and that won't change. Even if down the line I end up, joining someone on another show or getting a co-host. I'm not planning on getting a co-host right now, but, there's been a little bit of, buzzing about, would I possibly be interested in doing this and doing that? And, never say never, but right now my focus is here and you. Yeah, I have a whole stack of his funeral cards. There's a few people in wrestling that want one. that I just haven't spoke to all of them yet. I've mailed a few out. That night I got about a dozen. And I was going to, believe it or not, like Kev's mom and his brother, John, were like, no, take more. And I was like, no. I felt awkward. Like I was like, just give me a dozen. But there's a few people in wrestling that really wanted one. I keep all mine. I still have Chris Candido's. I still have Jimmy Hustler's. I still have quite a few. My family members, I keep them all. Believe it or not, out of everybody who has passed, my grandmother, who died in 1991, you guys have seen her. I didn't even realize I had the picture of her in here. She's the one who got me into wrestling. She's the chunky one on the right. She was awesome. She would be the type to come on in here and podcast with me. She fucking loved Hulk Hogan. She despised Roddy Piper. She died in 1991. But she got me into wrestling. She's the one that used to take me to Ridgewood Grove Arena. Her brother, God rest his soul, worked for the WWF and got us, like opportunities to meet people. She's the one that got me into wrestling. And, she even is, like there's things about her that still bounce on me to this day. So. Roderick, do I have any concerns about fans souring on Stephanie Vicaire as if she's being shoved down our throats? Not at all. Not at all. You know why? Because there's a genuine authenticity about Stephanie Vicaire that comes through. Her interviews, her attitude, how much she respects not just wrestling, but the fans. And they also see how hard she's working to learn English. Everything about her, people understand it. They could see it. I don't think she's being shoved down our throats at all. She's on TV. Fans love what she does. She can work. She can hang. And, I said this last week. I don't remember what show I was on, but I said last week, I said, when she gets English down perfect, I think it was Patreon I said this. I said, right now she's like Ricky. I remember it now. I said, she's like Ricky Ricardo. Even though I hated I Love Lucy growing up, my mom would watch it, but she's like Ricky Ricardo. She doesn't have English down perfect yet. When she gets pissed off, she'll start talking in a different language. That's what Ricky Ricardo used to do. Lucy, I'm telling you, like he would start English and then it would turn Spanish and go off the rails. I'm like, they didn't know how to do subtitles in the 50s. I don't understand a word you fucking said. Stephanie Vicaire, when she gets English down like this, that's when her personality comes out. Right now, and I say this, and I know you all could agree with me. When Stephanie Vicaire cuts a promo now, you could tell she's thinking about the words she's saying. Jackie, I welcome any challengers, and whoever steps up, you could tell she's thinking about making sure that she's saying it the right way. And that's fine. That's fine. When she gets it down pat and it becomes second language, just second nature to her, that's when her personality is really going to come out and it's going to be another level. I'm telling you. Listen, I don't, she's an attractive woman, but I don't have that poster up because she's an attractive woman. I put that poster up because she's impressed me enough, and a lot of people that I talk to love her work. And it's cool. It is very cool to realize that 18 months ago, almost nobody knew who she was. Almost nobody. She popped up, AEW, the match with Mercedes Moné, put her on the map. And then suddenly everybody's like, holy shit, Like, where did she come from? Even though last week was the anniversary of her tryout match with the WWE back in 2018. She had a tryout match in 2018. On WWE's website, they still have pictures of her from 2018 when she tried out. That is true. So she's definitely authentic. And when fans see authenticity, they appreciate it that much more. Fans are very smart now. And I don't mean smart like Smart Mark, but fans are, everybody's online. Not everybody posts. Not everybody screams. Not everybody is got a noise. But everybody is aware. And they see and they feel. And, before the internet, you just had wrestling magazines. And you had your local friends. And that's pretty much the extent of the vibe you got. The magazines dictated a certain vibe. Whether you like that vibe or not, you had no other choice. The magazines put you in a certain direction. If they truly wanted us to make us feel like Tommy Rich is an underdog, babyface, this and that, like we didn't really get, that kind of access to, the matches in the South and everything, so we would follow what the magazines dictated us. And then you had your friends. That's really it. If you went to shows, you got the vibe from the crowd as well. But now it's totally different. Did I talk about Deadline yet? No, I'll say this now because we're going to start wrapping it up. I thought NXT Deadline I expected it to be, I don't want to say an average show, but I expected a lot of continuation of things. As far as the Deadline matches go, I had said that I wanted Javon Evans to win. But Javon Evans has lost too many title matches. And I said if Javon Evans wins this one, he better fucking win the next time. Like, he's just, I would have rather Javon Evans not win Deadline if he's not going to win at New Year's Evil. But Javon Evans did win. Everybody else had 1 point. He got 2. Both matches ended almost the same way with only seconds on the clock. Javon Evans with 2, everybody else with 1. In the case of the other Deadline match, I'm trying to remember who all the participants were. I know that all the women had 2 points. And you know what? Let me just go through the results. I have them right here because I don't want to leave any matches out. So, hold on a second. Okay. Every woman had 2 points. And yes, that's right. All the men had 1 point, and Javon Evans had 2. All the women had 2 points, and Kendall Gray got 3. Kendall Gray got the 3rd point with almost no time left. I'll be honest with you. I got several predictions wrong. I thought, and I specifically said, Kendall Gray, I think it's a little too soon. I don't see Kendall Gray suddenly becoming NXT Women's Champion. I almost feel like that was done just to extend JC Jane a little bit longer. And what's weird that's happening now is we're getting title changes a lot more frequently than before. I don't know if I like it. Tatum Paxley, it was a fun moment for her to win, and she definitely worked her ass off the last couple of years, and good. It was very unexpected. And the next thing you know, the title's off of her. TNA's doing shit like this also. Mike Santana. Fucking, we thought he was going to win when they were in Long Island. And then he finally gets the belt, and I'm not saying that Frankie Kazarian doesn't deserve it, but it's like, really? It's just, to me, some of these title changes are making me think like, okay, maybe we've looked at NXT a little bit too professional. And what I mean by that is, when NXT was black and gold, you had the Undisputed Era, you had Keith Lee, you had Cross, you had, many people. Imperium, Pete Dunne. And NXT was competing head-to-head with Dynamite. And NXT was only getting 5, 6, 700,000 viewers, around 600,000. But they were losing quite a few weeks. And what was happening is you started to see a problem. Now, some people in the podcasting world, their egos are too big to admit that they were wrong. But, Triple H, they're ruining his legacy. They're taking over, they're ruining this, that. No, what happened with NXT during the Wednesday Night Wars was they were too busy concentrating on getting a decent rating against Dynamite instead of building the future. And what happened was you had the Undisputed Era, people getting paid quite a bit of money. You had Keith Lee getting paid quite a bit of money. You had Cross getting paid quite a bit of money. You had Imperium. You had other people getting quite a bit of money. These were not rookies making $60,000, $80,000. So you're having an extremely large payroll and you're focused on that. And meanwhile, who's the stars of tomorrow? Who's getting developed? Bianca Belair was already to the main roster. Io Shirai was already to the main roster. Rhea Ripley was already to the main roster. And then you're starting to realize, okay, we got to start bringing some of these people up. And yes, Vince fucked up with Keith Lee, Bearcat. Fucked up with Cross, hockey mask. And then, maybe we'll make Adam Cole a manager. And then you realize, maybe some of these wrestlers were never designed to be WWE superstars. Are they more designed to be 600,000-700,000 viewerships? Is that going to make millions of dollars in the WWE? No. So what happens? A lot of these wrestlers ultimately leave. Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly, Roderick Strong, and others. And they go to AEW, and you realize none of them individually pop a rating. And none of them collectively pop a rating. None of them went over 600,000, 700,000 viewers. And you realize that if WWE could not get them to the next level, then maybe some people are just designed to be that AAA minor league player. I'm not saying that any of those wrestlers are minor league players, but what I'm saying is that you can't take every person and turn them into a megastar. There's some people have their ceiling. And unfortunately, for quite a few people in the black and gold, that ceiling was a lot lower than it was perceived. The reason why some people online thought that they were going to be much higher is because of all the noise from people out there. How could you do that? You're erasing his legacy. You're killing the black and gold. Well, you want to spend $10 million on a payroll to get 600,000 viewers? So now you had NXT 2.0. Everybody looks back and like, oh, look at the colors, 2.0, ooh, pastels. NXT 2.0 was it was like 1995 in the WWF. It was not out with the old. They weren't as old as Hogan and everybody else, but you had the youth movement in 1995. If anybody remembers the WWF in 1995, they were consciously trying to build stars for tomorrow. Some of those wrestlers were older than you would think. But NXT 2.0 was about Braun Breaker, was about, Carmelo Hayes, was about Grayson Waller, was about even Johnny Gargano to an extent. Some people who were left over from black and gold, those were able to get to the next level. Gargano, I think, had a great run on the main roster, even though it's kind of stalled. Ciampa had a great run, even though it's kind of stalled. NXT 2.0 was designed to be the youth movement. trying to focus on the stars of tomorrow. And then what happened? NXT got over to CW. You got your Julius. You got your Stephanie Vicares. You got your Roxanne Perez. You got, other, stars. Even, Breaker early on. Carmelo Hayes. Trick Williams. And you're like, okay, all right. Now we're starting to get those people to the main roster. And then you got your Ricky Starks. You got the Ethan Page. And now NXT feels like a legitimate third brand. And it almost feels like over the last bunch of months, WWE is like, we got to pull it back a little bit because, the demand, plus they're touring. They're touring. And I think they've realized that, we don't have these huge names like before. Now, Julia was a phenomenon coming from Japan. So she was not an established big ratings draw here in the States. Stephanie Vicaire was still an unknown. You had an idea. So NXT now, it feels like they've pulled back and it's like, all right, we'll have this person have a run for a month. And we'll put the belt on this person for 2 months. We'll put the belt on this person. We'll tease this a little bit. And I think now it's not about, I think NXT's kind of, I don't want to say it's lost value or lost its stock, but there's definitely a little bit less interest on a weekly basis because the ratings, and don't give me the Nielsen system, because you look at some of those numbers compared to when the Nielsen system first took over and they still lost 100,000 viewers. So now I think it's about focusing more on some of the names that are not there yet, and they're kind of like experimenting. And I think that's why you see suddenly Tatum Paxley has the belt, Tatum Paxley doesn't have the belt. This person has the belt, this person doesn't have the belt. Obafemi kind of feels like what they did with Braun Breaker. A month and a half ago, you had people, Obafemi's going to the main roster. Yeah, you remember when he lost the title? That's it. My sources tell me Obafemi will be on SmackDown in 2 weeks. My sources tell me he'll be challenging Sami Zayn. My sources tell me that Obafemi might be put in division. Your sources told you nothing. And now it feels like Obafemi, they're doing the same thing with him that they did with Braun Breaker. We thought Braun Breaker was going to go to the next level a year before it happened. And we were like, why are they waiting? Why are they waiting? Then he turned heel. And then he fucking killed it as a heel in NXT. And it got so good. And then he was doing stuff with Corbin and that even worked. And then they were like, okay, when we bring him to the main roster, we're putting the Jets on him. We're not putting the world title on him immediately, but he is going to be significant. And I think the same thing with Obafemi. So I was very surprised to see Obafemi regain the championship yesterday against Ricky Stanks. But again, I think this is more about, giving more time with Obafemi. Who knows? Maybe Ricky Stanks gets promoted sooner than later. But Kendall Gray winning the Iron Survivor Challenge. Very interesting choice. I feel you got to do something with Jordynne Grace very, very soon. I don't think anybody's getting frustrated about the handling of Jordynne Grace, but it's getting to the point now like, okay, all right. She's been here for a while. She ain't winning no gold. She don't need no gold. She's had gold, but now it just feels like, all right, we need to elevate her a little bit. So what they do with her next, I don't know. Sol Ruka, plenty of time. Lola Vice, killing it, doing the stuff in AAA. I don't think you need to put her on the fast track either. Lola Vice is fine. She's, on her way. Kalani Jordan, the same thing. Kalani Jordan just had the Knockouts title. She didn't need to have an Iron Survivor victory. Ethan Page over Mr. Iguana. I think we all expected that outcome. Comedy gold, as expected. Tremendous match. Izzy Dame beating Tatum Paxley. That was another match that we expected her, Tatum Paxley to lose. It is what it is. Having this feud was the reason to shift Tatum Paxley away from the title as quickly as they could. They gave her a taste. They gave her a taste. I don't think anybody expected her to beat JC Jane. And she did. Now it's, okay, now we got to get back to the plan. And Javon Evans winning this. Leon Slater, again, stand and deliver. It's going to be Leon Slater and Javon Evans. That has to be a match. And who knows? Maybe by then Javon Evans will be the NXT champion and Leon Slater will be the challenger. I don't know. Joe Hendry, a little bit early. I don't have any issue with that. Dion Lennox, kind of like getting your feet wet. I think people are starting to really get a little bit behind Dion Lennox. I think he's starting to get some traction. And Miles Bourne, I said if Javon Evans doesn't win, you can give it to Miles Bourne. Miles Bourne is interesting because that's a guy that WWE wants to push. It's just, they're like, no, not yet. Not yet. Not yet. Not yet. Hey, we brought up the movie Trading Places before. Remember, if anybody's watched that movie, I watched it the other day because it's the holidays. That's when it comes on. But remember towards the end when they're the stock and they're going to put it up for sale, and Dan Aykroyd's like, wait, not yet, not yet, not yet. Now, I feel like that's what's going to happen with Miles Bourne. But oh yeah, he definitely reminds everybody of Randy Orton. Randy Orton has actually hung out with Miles Bourne, and didn't Miles Bourne botch an RKO? I think he botched an RKO. Randy Orton's like, it's okay. It's all right. He definitely resembles Randy Orton. But remember also, who was the guy that resembled Batista? Who was the guy that was in WWE for a short period of time? Mason Ryan. Remember Mason Ryan? Oh, my God. Mason Ryan and Darren Young. Darren Young looked like the black version of John Cena. And I remember when Darren Young cut that promo, everybody thinks I look like John Cena. I remember somebody putting a picture side by side, like, holy shit, he looks just like John Cena. But Mason Ryan sucked. Darren Young was good, man. Darren Young was very good, and I'm glad that he mapped out a pretty damn good career once he left WWE. He's still going. He's still doing good. Very, very happy for that guy. All right. We're going to wrap this up. Take like 3 more questions. Let's see. Am I leaving anybody out? Oh, shout out to Havili. Been a member of the family here. The Donzilla Army, the Castle Comrades, for 32 months. Much love to you. Zinpulse, thank you for the $9.99, my friend. Don't have the WWE Network anymore, but that will go definitely to the fund. We're growing in 2026. Tell you, it's time. It's time. With the history show in the books, that'll free up some time for me to cause a little bit of chaos online. But like I said, when we cause chaos, we're going to do it with smarts and intelligence and common sense, and not by just calling people out. And I don't want to become a grifter. No, I'm not into that. Shout out to Multigod WWE, who's been a fucking member of the family here for 54 months. It still doesn't feel like we've been doing this video for 4.5+ years. It's crazy. It's crazy how the years fly by. 4.5 years from now, you think how many other people are going to be retired in wrestling, whether due to age or due to forced injury or what. You can only imagine what tragedies we're going to have. 4.5 years goes by really, really fast, man. 316 MMA. Let's say if Liv Morgan defeats Stephanie McKay for the championship on January 5th, who do I think will win the Rumble or Chamber to face her at WrestleMania? Okay, so we're going on the idea that Liv Morgan beats Vaquer. Believe it or not, Bianca Belair may not be ready to go for Royal Rumble. Someone told me last week that she's getting an additional surgery on her hand. What the hell happened? I mean, just cut the whole hand off and give her a bionic hand. I'm just joking, but my God, I feel awful for her. That's got to be incredibly frustrating to be out of action for that long. But doesn't look like she's going to be ready for the Royal Rumble. I honestly don't want to see Rhea Ripley winning either one. But I get this weird vibe that Rhea Ripley absolutely could win one of those two. You know what's interesting? I don't have it in front of me. But if you have a board online, if you want to go look it up, you'll see what I'm talking about and it'll amaze you. One thing I've said recently is if you go on Google and you do a search year by year, do from January 1 to December 31st, go year by year, what you will find, which is fascinating, and I think this is done deliberately, is that for the last 7 or 8 years, there has been news. 7 or 8 straight years, there's been news and discussions about Roman Reigns versus The Rock at WrestleMania. You will see it. Roman Reigns versus The Rock could be considered for WrestleMania 34. The Rock wants to face Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 35. Roman Reigns would love to face The Rock at WrestleMania 36. Every year, not 1 year out. What I also found fascinating is that if you go back about 3 or 4 years, Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch, Bianca Belair, don't remember if Sasha Banks said it, but I know 3 or 4 women all said it. They said one of two things. Rhea Ripley is the future leader of the women's division. And I think Charlotte is the one that said that she will be the Hulk Hogan of the women's division. Like that kind of larger than life. And it was not meant in any derogatory way on her part, but you look at some of the women that have been there for a while now, multiple people all go to Rhea Ripley as she is that one. They believe she is leading the women's division in the future. She will be the leader. So when you think about it, it only makes sense. I mean, I know there's some people, I want Rhea Ripley and Io Sky to face each other at WrestleMania. Yeah, me too. But they may have to, by default, have Rhea Ripley. I think Rhea Ripley wins one of those two. I think she teases. Now, we're doing this based on the idea Liv Morgan is already a women's champion. I think she teases facing Liv Morgan, but she doesn't. I think she maybe challenges whoever is on SmackDown. Now, she ain't moving to SmackDown because, Netflix deal. But I think Rhea Ripley wins one of the two. As far as who wins on the other side, you could pretty much choose anybody. I think there's a possibility of Io Sky winning a Royal Rumble. Why not? I could see Roxanne Perez possibly winning. Maybe Roxanne Perez challenges Liv Morgan at WrestleMania. I don't think that's far-fetched. AJ Lee. Even though it would kind of be like, oh, God. All right. Why don't you just put her in the Hall of Fame, too, while you're at it? I think AJ Lee is a possibility. We got to give it another couple of weeks. I think the first Netflix of 2026 will give us a very good idea what direction WWE is going. It's like the Raw after WrestleMania, but not the Raw after WrestleMania. It's like the second biggest Raw of the year. That's what it kind of feels like what it's turning into. Like the first week of the year is turning into like the second biggest Raw of the year. All right, let's take, we'll go, we're at 2 hours and 18 minutes. Let's go 10 more minutes. We'll go 10 more minutes. Bianca held off on surgery. Think it would heal on its own, but it hasn't. I'm surprised that they waited this long for that healing process because you don't want the bone to heal too far. because now you got to break it again, and she might have to get pins and oof. You know what's funny? Here, check this out. Check this out. I got a hip injection, and this is gonna probably not look good through showing it like this, but I got a hip injection 2 days ago, and I took a picture of the X-ray machine. I don't know if you could see this, but that's my hip right now. I don't know if you guys could see this. Maybe like this. I don't know if you can. No, not really. That sucks. But you could see all the pins and the screws. Yeah, maybe fall back like this. Yeah, that's my hip. Shit hurts. So, yeah, that's it. It's very illuminated, but yeah, there you could see it now. That's one side of my hip. I know, it looks like a moon. It does. It looks like a whole bunch of debris landed on the moon. Benjamin asked, did Becky Lynch get blacklisted and ghosting confused? Because the two terms mean vastly different things. Joey Ryan was blacklisted. Tony Khan ghosts people. No. Becky Lynch is playing almost like Trump, like January 6th Trump. Well, I take that back because Trump did not promote violence that day. Not defending him, but he didn't promote violence today. It's like 2020 election Trump. She is misinterpreting everything on purpose. She is playing the unhinged, will not accept facts. Do I think Joe Biden won the election? Do I think he got 82 million votes? I think it was 82 million, right? I do. And I'm not trying to get political here. I think Joe Biden absolutely got the votes that he did. How he got those votes is the question. And I don't think it was just illegal people. There was a lot of, listen, this is why I don't follow either side anymore. If you go back and you follow very close to that election, to get the military against Trump, they had that excuse where he called some people that were injured wimps and suckers or something like that. Like alleged some wild, horrible stuff about military. And then military is like, or Biden's like, if I see him, I'd slap him, or some military people. And then, by the way, we just mailed out all the ballots. So people emotional, pissed off, he called them losers and suckers. So fuck him. And then you find out a month and a half later, he didn't say that. Shit, can I take my ballot back? Nope, too late. They were doing that on both sides with the COVID stuff, with everything. So they were manipulating people's emotions to vote a certain way. You look at Russian hoax. I mean, look, I don't care about that stuff. But you look at the Russian hoax. At that time, do everything possible to make us think that Trump is a Russian spy or he was hanging out with Russians. Try to get everybody to vote for Hillary. And then all these years later, we're starting to find out other things. I don't really give a shit, to be honest with you. But you're noticing, do whatever you can to influence the vote now, and we'll worry about that shit later. So that's what Becky is doing. Becky is playing this unhinged wacko that will not accept the truth. And they're giving her time off too. She's got a daughter, obviously. She's got a kid. She's being a mother as well. So this is a creative way to give her a little bit of a break too. I think it's great. I loved when I said two or 3 weeks ago, she's got to finish her lines with "Thank you for your attention to this matter," and a week later, a bunch of people like, "She listened to you." I don't know if she heard it or not, but I know in a synopsis, if she vanity searched her name, obviously what we were saying popped up right away. Becky needs to expand the Trumpism. Now what she needs to do is if she really wants to go all in with Trump, she's got to start using the word fake news. If she uses fake news, that's it. She will get vilified on social media, but she's doing a great job. I love what she's doing. I'm buying in. Oh, no, I'm not funded by APAC. I'm not funded by XPAC. I'm not funded by PAC. I'm not funded by anybody. I'm just giving you my opinions. You know, my opinions are all over the place. You know, people think I'm crazy about, you know, my proposals for illegal immigration. You know, that's like so not Republican. But, you know, I just look at things like common sense. You know, I got my views. I usually keep them off the show, unless I'm paid to talk about it. Hans Juke says, look it up. Biden got more black votes than Obama. Listen, it was the pandemic, and on top of it, everybody got mail-in votes. You know, mail-in voting was not like as big of a thing 15 years ago. You know, Obama won, what, 2008? What was that? Was that the year? I mean, fucking 17 years ago. You know, 17 years ago, the net was not what it is now. So, you know, mailing in a ballot allows millions and millions and millions of people to vote. I don't like going to an election booth. First of all, it's cold. Second of all, the line's usually long. Third of all, there's always some wacko that's protesting something, no matter what it is. Then you got people out there handing you brochures for other stuff. Go to our website, you get a Bible reading for free. Oh, thank you. Would you like to make a donation? Oh, I left my wallet in the car. Oh, where's your car? Oh, fuck you. I'm an atheist. Get away. You know, like, then the worst part is a lot of old people show up who haven't left their house in a month or a year. And they haven't taken a shower either. They all smell like fucking rotten feta cheese. And you got all this stuff going down. And then you realize you go in the booth. And I'm like, you got to wipe the booth down first? I walk out and I see this woman like dribbling all over herself. And like, I'm going in that booth. I got to touch that button? The fuck out of here. Just give me a mail-in ballot and mail it in. It's true. Everything I said is true, with the exception of the dribbling. But I've gone into a voting booth once in a while, and it smells like death. It smells like death. A lot of people, old people in my neighborhood, it is true. They don't go out for months. And, you know, I guess they're just too weak to, like, climb over the bathtub to get in the shower. I have some people that come into my office, and I feel like there's a dead cat in their pants. It smells like somebody died. Benjamin says in Texas they got pencils to hit the buttons. They don't smell either. Did you smell the pencils? Pencils, believe it or not, me and my friends used to love the smell of pencils. You sharpen the pencil and you get that lead. You smell it. It smells like woody a little bit, little woody. I'm not kidding, too. I used to break pencils over my head. I don't have any pencils here, but I do have this. Oh, this was the thing I told you. The greatest invention I never knew existed. I dropped something on the floor now. My wife's like, pick up your socks. I'm like, yeah, no problem. There you go. There you go. The greatest invention around. I grabbed my dog with it too. Come here, Bruno. Grab him. By the way, speaking of elections, I still got this. I should put it on eBay. It's a legitimate Hulk Hogan for elections. Hulk Hogan for president in 2000. That's a legit WCW collectible. It's real. All right. One more question. Who's got the last question? Who's got the last question? The grabbers are great. No, for real. I'm not kidding. If any of you out there looking for a gift for, like, even not for yourself, but if you got like a grandparent or a parent and you just want to get like even a gag gift, get them one of these on Amazon. They have longer ones. I mean, the mistake I did was like short. Like I can't really like get high with it, but I don't mean high like, you know, I mean high like up in the air. These things really work. I mean, I could pick up literally anything. Look, I got my Boost right here. Just pick it up. Did any of you ever try this? Boost. I'm not asthmatic, but a friend of mine told me, you got to try this. It's Boost. It's pure oxygen. I'm like, what do I need that for? He's like, you take out the garbage, you're a little out of breath, you take a whiff of this, it opens your lungs up. I swear, if anybody ever goes to a store and sees this is lifted up, it's empty. It feels like nothing. But what you do is you put it next to your mouth, you push in a button, you breathe in air. I go like this. And I'm like, wow, I just wasted $10. It does nothing. It's just air. Yeah, they sell them on Amazon. It's pure oxygen. It's like 10 times the level of oxygen or something. Douche. Will Vince or Trump be at Saturday night's main event for Cena's last match? I believe Vince will be there. I don't know if he'll be on camera. My gut feeling says he won't be on camera. Vince will be with John Cena after the event is over. And if Vince is not in the building for it, Vince will be with John Cena afterwards. I truly believe Vince will be there. And this is not news. I'm giving my opinion. I just don't know about Trump. You know, if you do a little Googling, John Cena's been a little critical of Trump in the past. You know, John Cena doesn't talk politics like he used to, but he's criticized Trump a little bit. I don't think Trump will be there. I don't care if it's in Washington. I don't even care if it was on the White House lawn. I don't see why he would. This is not WrestleMania. This is not, this is a Saturday TV show with commercials. It's a house show with NXT stars. It's like, this is not this major pay-per-view where Trump is going to just show up. I doubt it. I'd be very surprised if he does. I think some people are teasing it just to get a little attention to it. I don't see it. I really don't. The reason why dirt sheets are obsessed talking about it is because it's a news item. Latest update on Trump possibly showing up. And then you realize if he doesn't show up, you'll go back 2 or 3 months and you'll see they wrote 9 articles and it rotates. Trump, possibility Trump could be at Saturday night's main event. Highly unlikely he'll be at Saturday night's main event. With the government shutdown, it would be a bad optic. Now with the shutdown over, Trump might be there. Trump this, Trump that, Trump this, Trump that. They can't even get the fucking Raw rating for November 24th. They're going to find out from fucking Secret Service. You think Linda is telling people at Creative? Shh, he's coming. They have to set up so much major security. This isn't like, we'll just give everybody metal detectors. It's not as easy as, I don't think Trump will be there. I really don't. That's why, like I said, in 2026, when we hit YouTube really hard and I start putting individual clips, it's things like this. And then when he doesn't show, people are going to look back and hear what we talked about and they're going to say, yeah, I should have had that mindset all along. And you realize, people put 9 different stories out there and it ended up being nothing. So, but again, you say something enough times, people believe it. Again, you look at the AEW Warner Brothers Discovery TV deal. I heard it out of Meltzer's mouth this week, bringing up a dollar figure for the TV deal. And I'm like, no, just because you all said it 50 times over the last year doesn't make it fact. You think that's what it is, but you don't know. All right, one last one. We got 90 seconds. I want to finish this exactly 2 hours and 30 minutes. Benjamin brings up a good point. Oxygen is very light, but honestly, this feels like a scam. It's light. I mean, it's literally nothing. It's supposed to have 50 uses also. I mean, I sat there the other day and inhaled for like 10 seconds, thinking maybe I'll get like a head rush from it. Nothing. It's not like canned air. Like you spray to get dust out. Like I don't feel nothing. Probably what I have to do is I probably have to like run, you know, and try to like get out of breath and be like, I don't think it's needed for you or I. But they do it. You know what, Benjamin, you're right. This is like Spaceballs, Perrier. This is exactly what this is. On Amazon, they have peppermint flavored. They have all different flavors. Like, I'm not buying it again. I just bought it once to try it. I'm like, it does absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. I feel no difference. I don't feel like rejuvenated. Nothing. Nothing. I don't have any Whippets here. I have Gorilla Glue, but I ain't breathing in Gorilla Glue. So, anyway, guys, I'm going to jet. It does look like Perrier. It really does. I should have thought of that. By the way, Spaceball 2, I can't wait for that to come out. The fact that Mel Brooks is still alive is amazing. It's amazing. And nobody talks about it. He's going to be 100 years old. And if the guy, let me put it this way. If Mel Brooks is in charge of Spaceballs 2 and he has any type of, dementia, Spaceballs 2 is going to be awesome. I could only imagine, instead of combing the desert, we're probably going to have terrorists. If we get him with somewhat dementia directing this movie, it's going to be fucking crazy, man. I'm looking forward to it. That's not like a chant like AJ Lee, with therapy. You can't go, dementia. Dementia's no joke, man. I had a couple of family members with dementia. My wife's mother is starting to show little signs of it, and it's not fun. I'm not trying to make light of it. So if anyone out there that has ever dealt with someone, if you have dementia right now, then you won't remember what I said tomorrow. But no, but anybody out, I'm just trying to give everybody a little laugh. Anybody out there that has a loved one, trust me, I feel you. I always wonder about me, if that's going to be my demise down the line. I start getting dementia. So I hope not. But my friends, much love. I'm out of here. Hope you enjoyed this episode. We'll be live tomorrow, right after Raw. DTKCDiscord.com. DTKCDiscord.com. Right after Raw. Head over there. We'll be doing a live show. We'll have fun. I promise you that. And I'm out of here. Be well, everybody. Much love.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a podcaster. For me to live any other way was nuts. To me, those goody-good people who worked shitty jobs for bum paychecks and took the subway to work every day and worried about their bills were dead. I mean, they were suckers. They had no balls. If I wanted something, I just took it. I ran everything. I paid the bills. I paid the host. I even paid the masked maniac. Everybody had their hands out. Everything was for the taking. We always called each other good fellas. You would always hear from somebody. You're gonna like Don Tony. He's all right. He's a good fella. He's one of us. But if you're part of my crew, nobody ever tells you they're gonna get rid of you. It doesn't happen that way. There weren't any arguments or curses like in the movies. See, your haters come with smiles. They come as your friends, the people who've claimed they care the most for your life. And now that's all over. And that's the best part. Today everything is different. There's lots of action. I don't have to wait around for everything like everyone else. Oh, I didn't get the vaccine? Fuck you, vaccine me. Oh, your delivery guy has COVID? Fuck you, feed me. Right after I moved here, I ordered egg noodles and ketchup, and I got spaghetti with meat sauce. I'm no longer an average nobody, while they get to live the rest of their lives like a bunch of schnooks.